burden didn't arrive with noise or warning. It settled in quietly, night after night. When the room went dark and the only light came from a screen glowing inches from your face. You know this moment well. The blinds are closed, not to block the sun, but to hide. Your shoulders sag as if they already know what's coming. You tell yourself you're tired, stressed, lonely, that you deserve relief, and in that instant, the weight presses down on your chest. Not pain, not pleasure, but pressure. The urge rises like a wave you've ridden too many times to pretend it's new. This is where the burden reveals itself. Not as lust alone, but as responsibility avoided, discipline delayed, integrity traded for momentary escape. God is present here, not shouting, not condemning, but watching with the stillness of a higher standard. You feel it in your bones every time you give in. The burden grows heavier. Every time you refuse to carry it properly, it begins to carry you instead. You were not built to be weightless. You were built to carry something meaningful. But when you choose lust over discipline, you don't drop the burden. You let it crush you. There is a loneliness that doesn't come from being alone, but from being divided. You feel it most clearly late at night, when the world is silent and there's nowhere left to hide from yourself. One part of you wants strength, direction, and a clean conscience before God. The other wants release, numbness, anything to stop feeling the pressure of expectation. This split is exhausting. You live as two men in one body. The man who makes promises in the morning and the man who breaks them in the dark. The compulsion loop tightens here. Stress feeds the urge. The urge feeds the act. The act feeds the shame. And shame drives you right back to the screen, hunting for relief that never lasts. This is not weakness of desire. It's hijacked reward systems, years of conditioning training your brain to seek comfort instead of truth. God sees this fracture clearly. He sees the man you could be if your will was unified instead of scattered. The burden you feel is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to forge you. But forging requires heat and resistance, not escape. There is a precise second when everything tilts. You feel it in your chest first. A tightening, a restless hum, a pull that narrows your attention until the world shrinks to a single decision. Your breathing changes. Your jaw clenches. The mind begins its negotiation. Just this once. You'll stop tomorrow. You've already failed today. And then the snap. The decision breaks, clean and quiet. No drama, no explosion. Just surrender. That's the moment you feel farthest from God, not because He has left, but because you have stepped away from the standard He set within you. This is behavioral conditioning in action. Stimulus, response, reward, regret. Over and over, until your identity starts to erode. You are not choosing lust because it's powerful. You're choosing it because it's familiar. Carrying the burden of discipline feels heavier than dropping into the old pattern. But only one of those weights strengthens you. God is not asking for perfection here. He is asking for alignment. For a man who chooses the harder weight because it leads upward. Afterward comes the hollow quiet. The screen dims. The body relapses. And something inside you collapses. You sit there, staring at nothing, feeling emptied instead of satisfied. This is the part no one talks about. The emotional numbness. The dull ache behind the eyes. the sense that you traded something valuable and don't even remember what you got in return. You feel smaller, less solid, less present. The burden hasn't disappeared. It's doubled. Now it carries disappointment, self-disgust, and that familiar thought, I did it again. God sees you here too, not as a failure, but as a man standing in the consequences of his choices. Lust promised relief and delivered absence. Discipline would have burned, but it would have left you intact. This contrast is the lesson. The burden you refuse to carry consciously will always return unconsciously, heavier and more destructive. Eventually, you find yourself in front of the mirror. The light is unforgiving. Your eyes look tired, not from lack of sleep, but from constant internal war. You study your own face as if searching for the man you used to respect. This is where identity collapse becomes visible. You don't just feel guilty, you feel unreliable to yourself. Promises mean less. Resolve feels thin, and beneath it all is a quiet fear that God sees you as you are, not as you pretend to be. That fear is not your enemy. It is the beginning of accountability. God does see you past your impulses. He sees the man struggling under a weight he was meant to master, not escape. The mirror is not accusing you. It is asking you whether you are ready to carry the burden like a warrior instead of dragging it like a prisoner. The mind tries to protect itself by numbing. That's why the urge returns strongest when you're bored, rejected, stressed, or alone. These states lower resistance and make escape feel necessary. But this is where understanding changes the fight. The craving wave always peaks and falls. It feels endless when you're inside it, but it isn't. Delayed gratification isn't denial, it's command. Every time you stay present through the urge, you weaken the conditioning that enslaved you. Every time you choose discipline, you lay another stone in the foundation of a stronger identity. God strengthens men who choose restraint not because they are afraid, but because they are called to something higher. Carrying the burden properly doesn't remove desire. It puts it in its place. You've been taught, silently, that masculinity is about indulgence, conquest, release. But spiritual masculinity is something else entirely. It is the ability to feel pressure without collapsing, desire without obeying, temptation without surrender. Lust pulls you away from God because it teaches you to serve impulse instead of principle. Discipline brings you back because it trains you to act in alignment with a higher authority. This is where confidence is rebuilt. Not in performance, but in integrity. When your actions match your values, your presence changes. Your posture changes. Your voice changes. You become heavier in the world, not burdened, but grounded. God becomes an anchor instead of a distant idea, because your life begins to reflect the standard you claim to follow. There will be nights when the urge hits harder than ever. That's not failure. That's resistance working. Old patterns fight to survive when they're threatened. The screen will glow. The blinds will be tempting to close. The chest will tighten, and God will be there, not removing the weight, but watching to see how you carry it. This is the war, not dramatic, not visible, fought in silence, in seconds, in choices no one applauds. But these are the choices that decide who you become. Every disciplined refusal rebuilds your identity. Every surrendered impulse hands it back to the shadow. So here is the call sharp and unavoidable. You cannot live weightless. You will carry a burden either way, the burden of discipline, responsibility, and alignment with God, or the burden of shame, fragmentation, and self-betrayal. One will forge you. The other will crush you. When the urge rises tonight, when the screen glows and the room goes quiet, God will see your choice. And so will you. Which burden will you carry, and which man will you become?